Hello Americans! I'm here today to tell you just why the Danish democracy is so sexy. When the Danish people vote, they split the country in 3 regions. The first one, the capital, the second one, Zealand and South Denmark, and the third one, North and Middle Jutland. These regions are then again split in larger voting constituencies, and then these big constituencies are again split in smaller voting constituencies. One large voting constituency contains about 20 small constituencies. In all of the large constituencies, there are people running for the parliament, and in that way the voting constituency method secures that every part of the country, even the small parts in the countryside, is represented in the parliament. In this circle diagram, you can see how many voters there are in the 3 regions. And as you can see, the regions have been made, so there is almost the same amount of voters in all 3 regions.
But Anna darling, could you please tell me, how does this Danish democracy actually work?
In the Danish parliament there are 175 seats, and these are split between the 3 regions, so each region gets about the same number of seats. We have several mathematical methods we use when we have to calculate this. First, we start by calculating the value of a seat. That means how many votes a seat costs.
The seats in the parliament are divided between the parties using the biggest fractions method. This is a method, as if you can see at this picture, there is a number of seats in the parliament, 175. The value of a seat is about 7, almost 8 voters. Then we have the number of the votes at the parties. You look at the red numbers, and then we divide them with the value of a seat to see how many seats they should have from the voters. And the first one you can see it's 29.7, the next one 71.6, and so on. As you can see, then there are the 29 mandates for party number A, 71 for party number B, 45 for party number C, and so on. But that is only 173 altogether. So we use the biggest fractions method to get the 2 last numbers out. You can see that there are 2 numbers with very big fractions. That's 29.7, party number A, and party number B, 71.6. And those 2 fractions ascribe 1 seat each. So altogether we have party number A with 30 seats, party number B 72, C 45, D 16, and E 12. Altogether 175. Great! All the seats are now given out to the parties.
There are 2 kinds of mandates. There is region mandates and the supplementary mandate. All in all, there are 175 mandates that has to be divided between the parties. Of these 175 mandates, 135 of them are region mandates and 40 of them are supplementary mandates. Each region has a predetermined number of region and supplementary mandates. But why do we have supplementary mandates? The supplementary mandates are there to secure that smaller parties can get seats in the parliament too. Here you see the 3 major regions, North and Middle Jutland, Zealand and South Denmark, and the capital. As you can see, each major region has several of large voting constituencies. The larger ones are then split into individual voting constituencies. You also see how many region mandates each of the major voting constituencies has, and how many supplementary mandates each of the major region has. Now let's see how the mandates are divided. Here we have listed 5 parties and the votes they each have received. In this example, we only have 7 mandates to hand out. When you decide who gets the first mandate, you simply look at the party who has got the most votes. they got the first mandate. When it's time to give out the second mandate, you first look at the party who got the first mandate and divide the number of votes they have with 2. So now they only have half of their original votes. This is done to make it possible for other parties to get mandates as well. Then you simply hand out the second mandate to the party who has now got the most votes. If a party receives its second mandate, then their number of votes in the next round is not going to be their original number divided by 2, but this time by 3, and the round after that by 4.
All these mathematic methods makes it possible to have many parties instead of just 2. The methods also secures the small parties and gives them a voice in the democracy. Besides that, this form gives the individual's vote a big value.
But what about the American way? The American democracy works in a slightly different way.
There are both good and bad things about these two systems. So let's compare them. And now, let's look at the Danish way.
There are several pros to the Danish way of doing things. First of all, the individual votes are a lot more worth and counts a lot more towards the end result. It's also more democratic because the parties get the percentage of the parliament that matches the percentage of the population vote that they got. This way people also secured more influence. There are, however, one major con. It is the fact that the system is not exactly easy to understand. It's very complicated. The biggest fraction method, for example, is not exactly easy to understand. As you know, not every decision is made in Parliament alone. Sometimes big decisions are put to a referendum. In the Danish constitution, it states that whenever sovereignty is handed over, there has to be a referendum. That is why we usually have a referendum each time a major decision concerning the EU has to be made.
Now, let's look at the American way.
If we look at the American way, then on the pro side, first of all, each constituency chooses their own local candidate. 2. The state gets the number of electors based on the population of the state. And 3. They have the first past the post system, and that is very easy to understand. But on the con side, first of all, the votes that goes to the losing candidate is lost because the winner takes it all. And number 2, the candidate with the most electors can win, even though that the candidate did not have the most voters. And number 3, the election is determined by a few states with many electors. And the last one, number 4, this method does not take the differences of opinions in the state into account. There is still only chosen a single elector, Democrat or Republican.
In the United States, there are 4 different methods of referendums. The methods used are chosen by the states. The 4 different methods are the initiative, where every citizen or organization may gather a predetermined number of signatures to qualify a measure for the ballot. The initiated state constitutional amendment is where citizens can put forward an amendment to the state's constitution, and when a sufficient number of citizens have signed a petition requesting it, it is put to vote. Typically, the required amount of voters to pass the amendment is around 66% pro. The legislative referral is where the legislature puts proposed legislation up for a popular vote. The legislative referred constitutional amendment is when a proposed constitutional amendment appears on the state's ballot as a ballot measure because the state's legislature voted to put it before the voters.
And now, my dear Americans, I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. I want you to pick up the Danish democracy, to cherish it, to make love to it at sunset on the Sicilian cliffs. Because 1, the individual vote is valued a lot more. And 2, it will be easier to identify yourself with a party because there will be so many of them. And 3, the Danish democracy is simply so
sexy.